Hi everyone, my name is Brenda. I'm the president of East Gwillimbury Gardeners. I hope everybody's staying well and safe, sequestered in their gardens. It is a somewhat coolish April day. It's mid-April and, well, beginning of April, I guess, just before Easter. And I'm just putting together this little video. I am not an expert, but I am a somewhat experienced gardener. I've been gardening for 20, 30 years, I don't know, give or take. And so I wanted to speak to some gardeners that are maybe not so experienced and have maybe put in some perennials in the last little while, last year or the year before, and they're concerned come the spring whether their perennials have made it through the winter or not. Now, we had just had a pretty mild winter, so most things have been pretty good this spring coming back, but I wanted to take you through my garden, little tour, and show you a few things and how they're coming back. There are a few different ways in which perennials overwinter. So some are evergreen, just like our evergreen trees. They stay green all winter long. So when the snow melts, you're going to see the perennial still sitting there looking pretty much the same down to its basal leaves, obviously not in flower, but the lower leaves just stay the same and evergreen all winter. And then others go dormant, and so you won't see anything first thing in the spring, and those are the ones that you might be concerned about coming back. Some are very delayed, take a long time to come back, and others are starting to poke up around now. So I'll show you some of those. And also then there's woody perennials that are a little bit different, and they often have dieback at the tops, but underneath or lower down closer to the base of the plant, you will see that there's some greenery and that they're coming back that way. So I'll show you a couple of those types of plants as well. All right, here we go. Perennials like this prairie smoke comes back, basically stays evergreen almost all winter long. So first thing in the spring, it basically looks like this. It fills out a little bit, but it's quite different from, let's say, the grass that's next to it. This is a warm weather grass, so you're not going to see any growth on it really right now. Even if you look right down at the base, you're not seeing any green. But don't panic, it will come back, most likely. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. Oh, there's a little teeny tiny bit of green in there. That indicates to me that it's still alive, but you're not going to see growth like, again, you're seeing on your prairie smoke, where it's just stayed green all winter long. Here's some iris. They too are kind of evergreen and stay up pretty much green through the winter. So first thing in the spring, you're going to see those still there if they're doing well. Save for, these are daylilies coming up here. Some of them go completely dormant and you won't see them, and other ones are an evergreen, and so you might see the greenery staying a little bit longer through the winter. But mid-April, beginning of April, you should still see some of the shoots still sticking up for them. Now over here this is a little creeping phlox, and if you pull back the mulch that I put on this, you can see that it's remained somewhat green through the winter as well. This is thyme. You will notice that there's a lot of dead sort of right on the tips here. So you can just cut that back, but the rest of it's come back. So this would be an example of a woody perennial that comes back through, but you may not have complete renewal. It's a little spotty. It's some of it's dead, so if you give it a good haircut, it should come back nicely. Lavender is another example of a woody perennial that tends to have a lot of dieback on the top, and it can look pretty dead. But if you go back, you can just kind of see how it changes from this kind of dull gray down into a nicer greeny gray color there. And so that's all nice, new, fresh stuff growing down at the base there. It all looks good. So I know this has come through. I'll give it a little haircut, shave off this, take off this top part, dead part, and then that bottom part can grow up nice and healthy, and it'll look good for the summer. Now this is where my peony is, and you will notice that it looks pretty much dead, that there's not much there. And so if you were new to gardening, you might be worried that your peony has not come through the winter. Rest assured, it's probably there. They're pretty hardy, but they do go completely dormant. But I will show you here. It's probably not a good idea to do this, but sometimes I get impatient and worried myself, so it's nothing new. But if you clear away a little bit of the soil, there's a nice little peony tip that you can see growing down in there, and so it's going to start popping up fairly soon. So we'll just cover that back over and wait until it gets warm for it to pop up on its own. Hostas are another perennial that go completely dormant, and you'd have to, oh, there, see, you can just see that there's just a little bit of a tip there coming up, so it's done all right. It's come through, and we'll just let that be for a little bit until it gets warmer, and then you'll start to see that it's coming back. There's another perennial that goes dormant. This is swamp milkweed, and as you can see, it looks really dead. Now, unlike the peony and the hosta that I showed you previously that's gone dormant, if I dig around, I can dig around in this, and I am not going to find any sign of life, but I'm fingers crossed. It should be coming back next year, like this summer, but it's very delayed. You probably won't see anything from any of the milkweeds, swamp common or the orange milkweed that people like. They don't reappear or break dormancy until almost well into May. So don't be surprised by that. Just leave them be. Don't take them out in frustration. Just let them be. Okay? You might also be worried that your little planted shrubs or trees haven't made it through the winter. A good way to check on those, if they haven't started to bud out yet and you're a little worried, is you can just do a little finger scraping. And you see that beautiful green there? If I can focus on it, sorry. See how nice and green it is under the bark? So I know that this hop tree has come through the winter. This part has died off. That's okay. Just we'll get rid of that, and it should be good to go. Sometime in the next few weeks, we'll start to see it bud out and then leaf out, of course. The hop tree is a more southern Ontario native species, and we're starting to grow a few more of the natives, Carolinian species up this further north, as we're starting to see some warming temperatures due to global warming. And this particular tree, this hop tree, is a host plant for the giant swallowtail butterfly, which I did see around here last year, so that's pretty exciting. So I hope that gives you some information on how a variety of perennials start coming back in the spring, and happy gardening!